Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi everyone, welcome to today's video, and I have a bit of an on-the-fly video today, so I have a bit of limited time. I'm actually going to a crafters retreat that's being held at my church this weekend, and I'm really excited about it. I don't talk about my church too much here on the channel. I try not to do that, but I really want to get to know some of the more like elderly women in my church just because, I don't know, I've been really missing my grandma lately. I've been talking to my patrons about that. I'm actually making a baby blanket for one of my friends, and I'm using my grandmother's like supplies to do that. And I don't know, I've just been feeling really nostalgic, and there's just something about it when, you know, well, I don't want to put this on other people, but being at my age that I am, that I would like some more like grandmotherly figures in my life, and I don't really have any of those at this point. So I'm going to be going to that. So anyway, sorry, just little stuff you might not have cared to know. I will show off whatever I end up making there probably in my Patreon vlogs. But so that being said, I didn't really have a plan for which video to film for today. I knew I needed something, so it seemed like the perfect time to do one of my 5 random recommendations. So this is where there's no real theme for this. Some of them are 5 stars. One of them is like a 4-star read, but they're just books that I really want to give a little bit of extra time to point you towards. Also, one of them is just straight up one that I really want to show it off because I got a beautiful copy of it, so we're going to talk about it, even though I've talked about it pretty recently. But yeah, these are just some books I want to give attention to. I'll have links to them down below so you can snag them off of Amazon if you want. And yeah, we're just gonna dive into them. So there's no rhyme or reason to these. We'll just talk about them a little bit. I'm sure some of them I'll have more to say about them than others, but yeah, and let's dive in. So first up, I have here A Tempest of Desire by Lorraine Heath. This book is actually an addition to a series that she started quite a while ago. I believe it's The Scandalous Gentleman of St. James. And so if you've read a lot of books in Lorraine Heath's world, you will recognize a lot of names that come into this. This is actually a son of some characters from a different book. But it's also okay if you don't know those characters, because a lot of this a lot of this book actually feels like it's a bottle episode. If you're someone who watched a lot of network TV when you were young, like me, you'll know that there's something called a bottle episode where it takes a few of our characters and puts them in maybe a location that's different than normal, and they are there for most of it, and it's just those couple of characters. And that is what I refer to this book, or also known as a forced proximity situation. So in this one, we actually have our hero, Viscount Langdon, who not too long ago actually was in an railway accident that basically caused concussion syndrome, though it was called something else at the time. But if you've read this, if you're familiar with concussion syndrome or you've heard of it, you'll know that's what happened. So he was in a railway accident where he had some damage to his head, and it has caused a few issues besides just migraines and him needing things to be quiet and not a lot of light, which I can very much empathize with. That being, I get migraines quite often myself, but it also caused a bit of dyscalculia. It's very hard for me to pronounce that, but it caused a form of that where he can no longer has a concept of like numbers and time and things like that. It's very interesting how it's described in this book. But the point being, that was very devastating for him because he was always very sharp with those things. And that was actually something that he prided himself on. So not only is he isolating himself for his physical health, he's also isolating himself because he's ashamed of that he's lost that. He doesn't know how to explain that to his loved ones, and it's very disappointing. So he is staying on actually this small little island that has a home, and so it is just where he stays to have peace and quiet, and he's done that more and more in the past since this injury. Then we have Marlowe, who is just known as Marlowe, like one name, and she is actually a courtesan and a long-term mistress of this man of the time. And she actually has a lot of kind of dreams for herself. And one of the things she loves to do is actually she has a hot air balloon that she loves to fly. This is historically accurate to the time that not only were there hot air balloons at this time, but women did fly them, which was really cool. And there is a storm that comes upon her very quickly, and it blows her off course, and she lands on this isolated island. And the beginning of this book is actually Viscount Langdon finding her on his beach. And he knows who she is, actually, because they had a bit of a flirtation in the past. And so he knows who she is, and there's this beautiful temptation who's just landed on his isle. Now, I was a bit nervous this was going to end up being like an amnesia trope, and that it was going to feel a bit like an overboard situation, which, number one, Lorraine Heath has already done an overboard situation, and number two, I really dislike overboard retellings. Though the original story I like, I don't think it ever makes either character look good in an overboard retelling. That is my personal feeling. I feel like the person who knows more about the heroine or the hero than they know about them always ends up coming off as being a jackass to me. Again, personal feeling. A lot of people love the overboard retellings that have been done by quite a few authors. Anyway, point being, I was a little worried that's what this was going to be. But no, Marlowe knows who she is. She is a bit injured and all these things. And she is now stuck on this small isle with him until the storm will pass. And so these two being stuck in proximity with each other, there's already some sexual tension that's left over from interactions in the past. But they're both very different people from then. And there's this dance that the two of them are doing. And the thing is Marlowe is actually coming to kind of the end of her time with her current protector. And she isn't sure that she wants to take on another one. Now, by the end of their time together on the island, they actually don't get too physical with each other during this time. There's a lot of banter. I'm not saying there's nothing physical, but they very much know that she still belongs to somebody else currently. And, he doesn't want to share her with anyone and all these things. And by the time she returns home, we actually find out that her protector, he has now gotten engaged, and her time with him is going to be coming to an end. And at this point, Viscount Langdon is like, well, this is perfect. I can have her as my own. I won't be sharing her. Whereas Marlowe, she doesn't want to be anyone's mistress anymore, let alone the man that she's actually falling for. Because in her experience, being someone's mistress has very little to do with true feelings and love. And she doesn't want that for herself. So this is truly a very aching, bittersweet story. There's a lot of pining. There's a lot of like right person, wrong time going on. There's, of course, class difference and her being a like mistress and all those things. And I very rarely enjoy a mistress trope. It's very tough for me to enjoy because I don't like that pickle we're in where he wants you, but he's going to end up with a wife and kids that isn't you. Like, I just always hate that setup. But Lorraine Heath is one of the few authors that I've enjoyed it before when she's written it, and I very much enjoyed it this time. This was a 5-star read for me. And of course, you guys know I really want to be lifting up more historical romance authors. And the thing that, man, I might even cry right now. Sorry. It was announced not too long after this one that Lorraine Heath doesn't have any more books on her docket that I have heard. And this being kind of wrapping up of the St. James series, this wasn't the start of a new series as a lot of us thought it would be. I would find it just absolutely tragic if we're never to get another historical romance from Lorraine Heath when we still have her writing. So part of the reason I'm bringing this up, and again, I'm sorry, I don't care, I will blame it on it being the first day of my period today, but I cry all the time, so I can't completely blame that, whatever. I would find it the biggest tragedy if we were not to get any more books from her because of the current state of publishing. So if you are at all interested in historical romance, if you're interested in the story that I've shared, please go get yourself an audio or a physical or an ebook of this and read it. And it's so good. It truly is. Or any of Lorraine Heath's backlist. I think she's a phenomenal author. She has some of the most unique historical romances I've ever read. And it would just be an absolute tragedy should we not get any more from her. This was beautiful. Okay, let's throw in one that is a bit complicated to explain, but I truly enjoyed this story. This is from a debut author, and yeah, it is a fantasy romance. This one is a love triangle, and which isn't my normal thing, but I thought this author, though this book isn't perfect, no book is, of course, we know no book is, though this book isn't perfect, I thought the author did a phenomenal job of telling a very complicated story, and so I'm very excited for more. So here we have The Crimson Forest by Louise Damgard. So this involves kind of these, like, I consider them like a fae / shifter type situation, and I know in my reviews of this I've tried to be very sparing about getting people's hopes up that this is the next like ACOTAR. I do not think that. I don't think it's the next ACOTAR, but if you are an ACOTAR girly like myself, there are particular elements that I think you will see like the nod to that. Nothing feels outright like blatant to it, but there are a lot of great little tidbits that I found very curious how the author took it and like spun it just a little bit and made it amazing. But in this one actually starts with some amnesia in the beginning, and we have a character named Vanna who we start the story with her running through the forest, and she gets discovered by these shape-shifting people called the Sillarani. Sorry, it's very hard to say. And she gets found by Asher, who is the alluring Enon king of the forest. Okay, so very difficult terms for me to say, but basically this world is split into different realms, and the people are called Enon. And there are, here is the picture of this, we'll show you. There is a mountain realm, a lake realm, a forest realm, and a desert realm, and then there's also an island over here and here that are some different places that get visited as well. So that's kind of our setup in there. Again, sorry, it's a bit confusing for that. But we have Vanna who is running through the forest. She does not know who she is. When she gets kind of captured by King Asher, now he isn't like completely keeping her captive, but he's like, you don't remember who you are, you're in my kingdom, let me help you, let me take care of you. And he explains to her that it appears that you are human, there are not humans in this realm, so we don't know where you came from, blah 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 blah. So he kind of forcefully offers her a place to stay. In the beginning she's very hesitant, she just knows she needs to get away, she needs to get somewhere, but he's like, where did you come from? Where are you trying to go? Let me help you. There are people that would be dangerous to you. In fact, we are currently like going to war with the mountain realm, and they're threatening his borders. And so if you just go running off, you could get captured by the mountain realm, and they're evil. You don't want to get captured by them. So she slowly starts to warm up to King Asher, gets to know him. She starts to learn more about the Enon people, again, which are shifters. I won't try to explain that because I'm horrible at explaining things like those, but as it was a clever way in a fantasy to have an info dump. Like I know that gets a bad rap, but in a fantasy world, you have to have an info dump of some kind. You just do. I don't care. There are better ways to do it than others. And I personally think this one was pretty good because since our character has memory loss in the beginning, doesn't know where she is or what's going on, though it still feels kind of obvious what the author is doing, right? It's obvious that she's doing some info dump here. Also, it's not that our heroine would inherently know any of this because, again, she has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is. So not only does she need the information, but we need the information. So it kind of works that way. And as she gets to know King Asher, she learns of a crucial weapon that he needs her help to retrieve. And so he sends her on this mission. He needs a human to do it, and she's the only one who can. So a good part of the book is her getting to know him and then eventually discovering that he needs her to do this and her going on this trip. And when she goes on this journey to get this weapon, she ends up getting captured on, I believe this is where that island comes in. I think this is, I think it's the Shadow Islands where it is. One of the little islands that I showed. It might be the Insan though, because I think they go through the wards there. Anyway, I'm sorry. The maps, my brain, it's hard for me to keep it straight. But either way, she gets to this island and now she's captured by the leader of that island. And this person does know why she's there, knows that King Asher's the one who sent her, and does have the weapon that she needs. But to get it, this leader of this island is not just going to hand it over. Instead, Vanna must win this, which means she gets put into these kind of gladiator style fights against different Inan who have been kept as prisoners. And there's one particular prisoner that she ends up getting paired up with many times, whose name is, hold on, let me find, Ren. His name is Ren. And this is kind of like our love triangle element that gets added in here. And Ren, we discover, is from the mountain realm. So he is an enemy to King Asher. And, you know, that being said, Vanna wants nothing to do with him then. But the ruler of this small island forces them to work together to, like, defeat in these different rounds of this tournament to get the weapon. So I don't want to say too much about Ren because it would give a lot of the story away, but just know that in this love triangle type situation, we have Asher, the king of the forest realm. We have Ren, who we know has something to do with the mountain realm. And then we have Vanna, who is our human, who again had amnesia, had started to fall for King Asher, and then had been sent to this island to get this weapon where she meets Ren. So I hope I've set that up well. Now, this book was fascinating. The different powers that we get introduced to are very interesting. The different types of shifters that there are, the politics that are happening within these four realms, what's going on. And again, I don't want to tell you the elements that match ACOTAR because it would give away a lot of this story. But there were some of them, and I thought they were very cleverly used. Now, again, when I say like ACOTAR, that doesn't mean that Sarah J. Maas was the first person to ever do these things. You know, it's not that Louise Damgard is echoing things from Sarah J. Maas, right? Because even Sarah J. Maas got the archetype she uses from other types of fairy tale. I just want to make it clear that I'm not accusing this author of that or saying that that's what's happening, right? I just wanted to point out that if you are a fan of ACOTAR, you're going to notice some echoes to some things you'll recognize from there. And to me, those were quite fun because I am a fan of hers. So anyway, enough rambling, but this was fantastic. Again, this is a debut author. This was really well done. I don't love triangles by any means, but I am hooked into this one. Wow. There were some fantastic reveals at the end of this. Now, it does have a cliffhanger. I know not everyone will care, but I just want to make a plea that you at least go pick this one up. Maybe you want to wait till the next one is out, but because this is a debut author, you know, the best way to show her that we want the next one, that we want a continuation, is to buy this book and, you know, read it and get her encouraged to read more. So that's part of what I want to do with my channel, right, is to raise up the voices of these new authors that I find, because otherwise she might not think anyone wants her story, and I would be very sad if we don't get it. So please give this a go. If you're someone who can handle a cliffhanger, please give it a try. And if you can't handle a cliffhanger, please still go buy this so that it's purchased, and then we can get to it later. But really well done. Enjoyed that story a lot. Okay, then this is the one that I did just talk about, this one pretty recently. I mean, all of these ones aren't super old except for one of them I'm going to do is an older one. But I just got the beautiful copy from Novel Grounds of this book. So there's When We Burn by Kristen Proby. And I got the lovely, there it actually has orange pages. How cool is that? I love it. I love it so much. So this is book 1 in the Blackwells of Montana. And this book is about Bridger and Danny, okay? So Danny is the younger sister of our hero from the last book in the Wilds of Montana, and then Bridger, their family's kind of friends to like both families, but they were very close with Danny's family, especially helped out with them having a very abusive father and everything. So Danny does have some childhood trauma from that. Her father was abusive to all of them, but oh man, she got a lot of it for sure. So Bridger, he is a single dad, and he is also a firefighter. He's a firefighter chief, and he now actually lives next door to Danny, who she's renting a home not far from him. And his little girl, I think, is only like 5, and she actually is now, Danny is her teacher. Danny is a kindergarten teacher. Sorry, just look at them. They're so beautiful. Just love to stare at them. They make me so happy. And, he has been into her for a long time, though he did, while she was away, I think at school and everything, he had married a woman who he'd had a one-night stand with, and they had their little girl, and that woman kind of ditched him not soon after the baby was born. His daughter was actually born pretty premature, so she's very little for her age. I have some kids in my life who that's how things were for them as well. But anyway, so they're in Bitterroot Valley, and she's living across the street from Bridger and his daughter, and old feelings start coming up. She's had a crush on him for a long time. He's been into her for a while too. And now having her back in town, he basically decides, like, you know what? I'm not putting off anymore. I want her. And he tells her brother that. He tells her that. He's going for her. And so this is really great. There isn't a lot of wishy-washing around for any of them. This is really about him being committed to her, and then, you know, proving to her that she's the one for him. The suspense element to this one has to do with there is an arsonist in Bitterroot who is burning a lot of places. It's very sad to see it happen. But this community all comes together, and it's beautiful to see them do that. So this is excellent. I love, love, love Kristen Proby's books. I highly recommend the audiobooks if you are an audio girly. And yes, I got this beautiful copy from them. One thing, I'm not blaming them for this, because this happens a lot when there's like pages done. I'm really sick of books being printed like that, where they're like so stiff. Like, I wish there was a way to make pretty pages like more flexible. I don't know. I'm not blaming them. Like, this book is mostly going to be for display, so it's all right. But I wish there was a way to do that better, you know? Anyway, sorry. When you buy the copy from Amazon, if you do, it won't be like that. But I love the gold, or the, like, I don't know, is that like salmon almost? The salmon foiling on there? Love it. Okay, then we have another fantasy to share. And this is one that I truly loved this so much. I've been talking about it to my friends, trying to get them to read it. Not just like BookTube friends, like my friends in real life, because I think they'll enjoy it a lot. So I was lucky enough to receive an ARC copy actually of Iron and Embers by Helen S. I'm not trying to say her name to save us all embarrassment. And this is book 1 in the Ashes of Thesmar. So as I've said, I have not read the first Thesmar series yet. I have it on my TBR. I will get to it very soon. But I started with this one, and I don't regret that, because this hooked me in so much. So in this one, we actually have Ren and Torge, and it's very clear that they have had a previous flirtation, and they're actually now enemies, because Ren actually killed the man that Torge was protecting at that time. He's kind of a royal bodyguard, and she killed the man he was protecting, and that actually messed with Torge's career for the last few years. So again, they used to have the flirtation. They were really into each other. Torge actually stopped them from having a rendezvous, as it were, because he knew that it wouldn't mean anything to her, and he really wanted it to mean something to them both. And, you know, that kind of pissed her off, and we ended up where we ended up, type of thing. However, she is now going to this like alchemist school type thing, and she's actually an heir to her kingdom as well. So Torge gets assigned by, I can't remember if it's like the guild master or like who does it, but he actually gets assigned to protect her. So do a few other men as well, but he's kind of the head protector. So this woman who had killed his previous charge and they have this crazy sexual chemistry with each other, he's now assigned to protect her, which is just wild to me. And so at this kind of like alchemy school she's going to, there are also these like competitions that they have to compete in to see which placement her team will get in like getting jobs and everything. There's also still people who want to ruin the peace that has been so hard fought for like their kingdoms to have. So there is a like plot to take out some of the royals still going on. So there is a reason why she needs protection. And then Torge is actually staying in an adjoining room to her. It's kind of cool. I love the maps in here, honestly. Like there are these like private rooms and we can see that like share a bathroom. And she's actually in one of these private rooms. Sorry, no, it's hard to see. She's in one of these private rooms and he has the room right next to her and they like share a bathroom in there. So not only is he like guarding her every step during the day, he also is sleeping right next to her at night. So that definitely makes for some crazy chemistry. There's also something extra that connects them. And I'll just tell you, like, this is a fantasy romance, so fated mates are not an impossible thing to be happening for sure. But I loved how this story unfolded. I loved the school parts of it. I love the bits of alchemy and poisoning and things being used within it. And I love the character of Ren. She was the perfect amalgamation of like, she's a badass, but it's very clear where her strengths lie. You know, there's that thing of like women are the poisoners and whatever, but like it's terrifying the things that she'd be able to do and the different types of poison that they have to like be able to identify and the way they create antidotes for it. It's amazing. And then there are parts too where like she needs to learn other types of self-defense because you're not always going to be able to use your poisons. But there were some cool like gadgets as well, like almost like James Bond type things, like poison within rings that she can use at a moment's notice if something's happening. Like just some really cool things within this that I just really enjoyed. So again, Iron and Embers, this is the first, and I think this one will be a trilogy. The next one's coming in July. It won't be too terribly long. Isn't that crazy to think? It'll be here before you know it. But I do want to read the original series from her before then, which is the Blood and Steel one. So there's Blood and Steel, Vows and Ruin, Fate and Furies, and Shadows and Storms. So I want to read those ones before then. But I did enjoy this. Having not read the other books, I still had a great context. I gave this one like 4.5 stars. So I was not lost at all. And they were just such a great couple. I love Torge and Ren so much. And then to round it off, this is one, as I said, one that I've talked about multiple times, but I just want to show off my pretty book that I have. And one of the most recent books in the series just came out, so you guys can, you know, binge a few of them if you want to. And the audiobooks, I think, are out for both the first 2 books. But anyway, it's Quiet Beautiful Things. I know I bring it up quite often, but I love this book, and after revisiting this world in the most recent one that came out, I want you guys all to discover these books. So Quiet Beautiful Things, this is like some spin-off series from Samantha Christie, but it was actually the first Samantha Christie I had ever read. And in this one, we have our heroine, just let me double check. Sorry. Ellie. Yes. Ellie and Blake are the characters. So Ellie, she is actually deaf, and she is like a child advocate for kids who are deaf and hard of hearing within like social services, and she helps at schools and things like that. And Blake, who is a single dad, well, he doesn't know he's a single dad. He's a single guy in the beginning of this, and he discovers that he has a daughter, and she's 4-year-old, and she's having trouble communicating. And he has never known about her. The mom never told him, and now the mom is in a I think she might have even died is what happened. Yes, I believe she is either in like, I think she's either in like a rehab, and it's like the little girl's grandfather and stepmother don't want to be the ones taking care of the little girl. And so she's going to go into the foster system if Blake doesn't take care of her. And so literally this little girl is thrust into Blake's life. He knew nothing about her, let alone does he know anything about sign language or communicating with her. And the thing is, the little girl doesn't know sign language either because it hasn't been taught to her. So she's basically been left in a world not being able to communicate. It's absolutely terrifying for both of them. And that's where Ellie comes in. So Ellie gets assigned as her daughter's like mentor, and she actually is a doctor, Dr. Ellie Stone. And when she first gets brought into this situation, she judges Blake very harshly because she doesn't know any of the backstory, which, number one, that is a bit of a shame on her part, but it's to start up the story with a little bit of tension between the two of them, because otherwise it would just be too easy. But once she realizes that this has all just been dropped in his lap and he would never have let his little girl be treated this way if he'd known about her, they very soon get on the same page. So then there's just kind of the tension of like, she's the one helping his daughter, and if they are dating each other, what happens if it doesn't work out? Like, will his daughter then be missing out on a mentor and help if he screws this up? But this story was just so beautiful. A story of him not only learning he has a daughter, which I love. Recently, one of my favorite like sub tropes to single dad is like surprise single dad, not just surprise baby, which is fun in its own way too, but surprise single dad, like the child is already here and the mother isn't around. There's a few of those I've read and just truly loved them. And this is one of those that just, it broke my heart. But it was also, this is so beautiful. So that's this Quiet Beautiful Things. I highly recommend it. And like with all of these books, I'll have links down below. So there you go. Those are 5 random reviews. I hope that if you have read some of those already, you will sound off in the comments that they were good recommendations at least. Maybe leave some random recommendations yourself down below for me or for other viewers. And again, I'll have links to all of these if you want to purchase them. It does help the authors and me as the, recipient of those. How did I say that? As I have Amazon links that I do get a small commission of, but it also helps the authors, of course. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.